Hello everyone, this is Daniel and welcome to the 22nd part of this character modeling tutorial series. So we just worked on Retopology and we have to take a quick step back because I realized I forgot a few details here around the belt, and we'll probably also add this part and this one in the back. I've also thought a little bit more about these patterns here, and I've decided that I want to do them in texture simply to keep this project more manageable and easy for beginners, basically. So let's move that reference over to my second screen and we'll get started with a bit of modeling here. Let's just, put the 3D cursor in the center with Shift-C, and let's start with a new object. Shift-A, add a plane. I usually like to just cut it in half once with Control-R for loop cuts and then just placing it in the middle. I delete one half and then I add a mirror modifier with which, you can basically just have it symmetrical. I just change a few settings here, enable clipping, and click on this left icon over there. That just helps me visualize it better and make it more manageable. So I'll just roughly move it in the right position. I won't be using the snapping at the moment. And once it's roughly in the right place, we can begin to make a few more subdivisions. We can even go actually as far as to use, actually no, we could use symmetry on two axes to mirror top and bottom as well, but I think it's not so complicated, this part, so we can just do it manually. So I'm always selecting pairs of two up and down, and then I scale them down so that also gives us a very symmetrical result. And then finally we might want to do one more step, and we have some little feature here in the design like this. Now, since this is going to be our high resolution or high poly model, we should also go ahead and add a subdivision surface modifier just to visualize it as we go. And since I want to make this edge a bit sharper, I'll just add a few more details in like this. It's always good to also take a step back and look at the proportions of this overally, and maybe I just want to change the curvature a tiny bit to make it more interesting like this. Making curvature not perfectly even is sometimes a good idea to make sort of the shape more interesting. And then let's see, we could try one more thing by insetting this entire region. We can maybe add a few more details to the shape that we're making. Let's take a look. I will choose even offset so that we have an even offset all around. And then I'll modify their position a bit manually. I believe that something like this should be just right for us. Now, I haven't mentioned too many of my keyboard shortcuts at the moment, sorry for that, but I hope you can see them down here. They're a bit small, unfortunately. Can I do something about that? Font size. Let's try that. Well, a bit better, right? We can also move them up a little bit. Alright, I probably should have done that way earlier, but better now than never. So just evening these points here out a little bit. This is actually getting in the way now. Let's just make it a little bit smaller. There we go. So I like the shape of this. I'm just going to give it some thickness. And then let's try to fill it in the back as well. Maybe the easiest way for this will be to just copy this to the back. Then we'll select this and let's just do it this way. Without this, and we don't need these here. So now we should be able to use Control E, bridge edge loops, and just make sure you hit merge here. And select everything then and hit Shift N to fix the normals. That should make it look all clean and good. And finally we can just go in here and fill in the rest. So, shaded smooth finally from the context menu. And in the end we just need to figure out the positioning a little bit better. What I'll do is I will select this ring in the middle, then in object mode go to set origin to 3D. Oh, I mean first go in edit mode, hit Shift S, cursor to selected, and then in object mode set origin to 3D cursor. Now we're able to just rotate it in object mode and figure out its position without yeah, I mean we still have our axis, so we can always return it. We should be able to return with Alt R, but it seems like the NVIDIA overlay something is also bound to the same shortcut, so yeah, that's kind of annoying. So I like how this is kind of straight, so I think we'll keep it this way. Maybe I don't like too much how this is staying, like sticking out that much. So I'll hit G and then Z twice. This will align it to my object's Z axis, so yeah, it will not get out of alignment this way. And yeah, this kind of peak here looked cool from when it was flat, but I don't like it so much anymore, so I'm just going to reduce it a little bit. Maybe it was a bit too much after all. Alright. Still feel like I want to improve it a little bit more. So by making this thinner, I think the border can be a little bit wider. And you know, finally, one thing I like to do in the end with parts like these, I mean, they end up being really straight and it just looks a bit unnatural. So let's quickly apply the mirror modifier. And what I like to do is just use the smoothing tools and just smooth the entire thing a little bit. And we could also go and add a simple deform modifier and smooth that on top. Use bend and pick the z-axis, and we can give it like a bit of a curvature. We don't need to go this far, but 25 should be good. I just didn't like how it looked very flat and very constructed, so this should help. Also duplicate this and go by in a different direction if we want. Can do it like this. Now it's like a Pringles potato chip, so that looks maybe better. It also fits better this location. Now we still have a couple of more parts to look at, so let's take a quick look at those as well. Let me just quickly go ahead and, well, let's start with a new object actually. New object, rotate it by 90 degrees, scale it down maybe, and we'll try to do this shape very quickly as well. So scale this down, scale this down. I'm going very fast here, but I think there are no new features that I haven't mentioned, so you can see the shortcuts here. Otherwise, just yeah, use the tools that you've learned already in this series. Yeah, quite straightforward. Let me think what I want to do. Something like this, maybe. The smoothing trick kind of works pretty well in many cases. I like to do that a lot, where I just create some kind of wrong looking, just roughing it out, and then just going in with some smoothing and having the smooth tool fix it all up for me. So I'll make the front just a bit flatter. In fact, I just wanted to even go a little bit to the inside, since it is kind of indented. And that looks alright. Let's add a subdivision surface modifier. Maybe select this first, select then that, and then I hit Ctrl L. This way I can add the same materials. Oh, okay. This object had a bunch of materials assigned to it, so which one is the right one? Let's see. This is the skin colored one. The green one is this one. Yeah, you can definitely name those. That will make your life a little bit easier. So I have one more thing I don't like about this part, and that is I wish I had a loop around here. So maybe I'll just add a loop here, and then I will slide the edges of the inner loop inwards, like so. That will give me a bit more control over the contour. Especially to make this part a bit thinner. And finally, maybe we just smooth it out a little bit. Alright, I think that's okay. I think one more thing I want to do is let's make the back also flat. And then with the entire thing selected, I hit Alt S and just inflate it. That will just make all the curves a bit, or all the edges a bit rounder, and it also helps me blend in nicer to the style that I have around here. So now it's just about finding the right size and position for this. In fact, let me actually try to also use some modifiers here. So I do have a little bit of a curvature in mind for this. So maybe let's go ahead and add simple deform on bend. Actually, twist would also be kind of interesting. But let's bend it first. One thing I'll also do is I'll hit Control A and apply rotation and scale. That will reset the axis, and now I can easily work with that. Also, let me move it actually to the center of the origin. That will make it a little bit easier on us. So here we go now. I'm trying to find a good spot. I feel like this should kind of be tucked in behind this badge a little bit, so maybe we can give it a little bit more space and tuck it in that little area. They can definitely intersect the objects. They don't have to be super perfect, but it would be nice if it doesn't show too much. So I'll make two versions of this with slightly different angles. I'll try to keep it centered and just make it look good. Alright, so I would say that looks close enough to our reference. Maybe we need to make them a bit shorter, they're a bit long. So we can hit S and then C twice. I realized these shortcuts actually don't show up here. I'm a bit disappointed about that. Because that's definitely something you'd want to see. Yeah, I'd only realized now, but I hit G and then Z twice in this case to lock it on the axis like this. Well, I hope you weren't too troubled by this so far. I thought this add-on was pretty good and just showed you know, the keyboard shortcuts that I use, but apparently it misses some things. Alright, but this is now a lot better. Shift C to return the cursor to the center, and here we go. Yeah, we can actually hide the low resolution meshes for a moment. What are these actually? Oh yeah, these are our new parts. We might want to call them something. I don't know, it's kind of a badge, and this is whatever, detail. Detail 1, detail 2. Let's just move these quickly to our high collection so that it's all grouped together. And there's one last thing we need to do, and this is this part here. So let us quickly add a new mesh, and we'll look at it from the front, like so. Just move it to the front somewhere. I'll make it small. Maybe let's make it long, and then I'll add a subdivision here, and then we can go ahead and make this a bit thicker. We have to raise this as well, just so that it's even. And then we'll add a bit of a curvature to it. So it's fairly simple, this part, quite straightforward. Let's add subdivision smooth. And I'll go ahead and try to fit it already now, before we get too many points. We'll go ahead and try to fit it to where it belongs. I'll actually take a quick look at my references for this. So here's a good look at it, something like this. So this goes something like this. It's a bit complicated when you do it completely freehand, but I suggest you try this approach also. I mean, this is a very simple part to practice it on, so it shouldn't be too difficult. But this is definitely a skill that you will need more and more as you grow as an artist, I believe, as a 3D artist, since your references won't be perfect most of the time. So you'll have to rely on being able to just, you know, figure out the shape from perspective. So it's a good idea to practice that while you can. So I'm just rotating the camera around a lot to always see the 3D form. And while doing so, you'll notice a lot of mistakes or lots of things that need to be adjusted, and you just go and adjust these one at a time. Usually that will very quickly lead you to the result that you're looking for. Okay, let's shade it smooth. Also, let's see, we'll add another subdivision here and here. But this is going to be a bit tricky because we don't want it to be like sharp in this direction. Wait, actually, I want to turn it in this way a bit more. Let's see. I'll try to select these two edges on the side and move them as much in line with the rest as I can, just to make it fairly smooth from this angle, but quite sharp from this side. Yeah, there's not much we can do to fix this other than adding more subdivisions here to even things out, but yeah, I think that should be good enough. So finally, one thing we can do is, well, add a few more loops here, but then I'll select these edges from here to here. Make sure not to go over this corner because we want this to be pointy. Then I'll use the relax tool in here. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side. And then that should give us a nicer, smoother curvature. Just help us smooth out some of our own errors. I think that looks pretty good then. So with that done now, we can go ahead and add a solidify modifier. We can maybe add another loop to here and here as well to make this a bit sharper. And I think that looks pretty good for what we need. Maybe we can select the entire thing and give it a bit more volume as we did before, but for that I'll have to apply. Alright, let's just try something. I'll make a copy of this. Let's hide the previous version. I'll apply subdivision surface and solidify so that we have this here. Then I'll go with Alt+S, scale it up a little bit and smooth it down. This also gives us the opportunity to select these two edges and with Alt+S give it a bit of an indentation just to give it a bit more structure and detail. And we should also be able to maybe use the sculpt tools with the move brush to just slightly bring this end a bit more into place where it fits better. So now we have less intersections with that. Should help us. And back in edit mode, the last thing that I'll do is just that, you know, it looks a bit rough here, so I'll go ahead and flatten that out once. Maybe we can then go in and finally slide these down a little bit to make it a bit more rounded, but yeah, that's going to be it for this part. Sculpt tools are always useful to just do some general rough adjustments. And here, maybe we just go ahead and smooth it out manually. Not too much work really. Yeah, but something like this should be good. Alright, there we go. Here we have yet another part done. If you see any more issues, feel free to, you know, spend a bit more time on that. I tried to go very quick as always. But there we go. So, I guess at this point you have realized how much of work it is actually to create a character. I mean, it always seems like a good artist should be able to, you know, if you get better, you will probably be able to do it within a very short amount of time. You might have this misconception, but I mean, I think it's obvious at this point that even if you go really fast, as I do, I mean, you're just going to lose accuracy, and creating characters usually just takes time. So in the context of a tutorial, it's very hard actually to provide this really good quality that you're used to from well, professional characters, but I'm doing my best to strike a good balance here, and otherwise I'm just saying this so that you know that if you're kind of slower or generally speaking, even not following this video, if you just work slow in general, that's actually not a bad thing. It just means that you're really being careful about your decisions. So yep, something to keep in mind. Yeah, I'm not super happy with this part, to be honest. I didn't like how the angles were coming together, but this looks a bit better now, except for this part. It's a little bit rough, but that's okay. Just scale it up a bit like this as well. Yeah, because when you look from a distance, you realize sometimes how things don't look as they might not blend in very well with the rest. So it's always important also to take a few steps back like this and see if it still works as well as when you looked at it from close up. needs to work from both. In fact, it needs to work even more from this distance rather than from here. But yeah, that's that. Let's leave it like this. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this part as always. This should now be the last detail. Oh, actually I forgot one. No, there's one in the back here. Alright, this video is getting long, but we'll do it. It's not a very complicated part this time. It's just that this is all it is. But I think we need to do this. Alright, so these are separate blobs. I want to do a similar style as to this. We'll just go in. No, actually, let's add a new plane. We'll move it up. We'll turn it 90 degrees, scale it down. We'll use the snapping tools to snap it to the surface. And then I'll add a loop cut. Let's get the shape right. Now I can use inset to scale it down like so. Use inset again. And we'll use it one more time just in case. Now we can extrude it all without the snapping on. Like this. Select everything and hit Shift N to recalculate the normals as well while we're at it. And then add subdivision surface. And of course the edges are going to be a bit yes, too smooth, so we need to select all these edges, and I don't want to select these in the middle here. And I'll use Shift E to just crease them a little bit like so. You can also turn up the subdivision surface. Actually no, let's not turn it up that high. Instead we'll go ahead and add more loop cuts to the entire thing. Like so. Maybe then we don't need the crease as well. We'll just try some things. Let's remove the creasing, and that looks fine. Then I will select all the inner parts, like here roughly. And we will smooth them out a couple of times. I usually prefer in the sculpt tools the slide and relax brush. Usually works better for me. So yeah, that's definitely something good. Yeah, we should use symmetry on this actually. It doesn't make sense to do all the work twice and to just get inconsistencies here. So mirror, maybe mirror it first, activate clipping, like this. Then we just need to make sure that these are all together, so I'll just move them together. And finally, I think this needs to be a bit flatter as well. We'll quickly select the inner region, flatten this, and move it inwards, like so. Of course, not too much, because then you'll see the layer below, but something like this should work well. Alright, let's add another loop cut here. Smooth out and deflate it with Alt S. You know what I'll do now? I'll just go ahead and select everything and use Alt S to make it all thicker, because the curves were a bit too sharp. It didn't really match the style. So making it all a bit thicker is probably going to help us. Finally, yeah, it's too flat as always. We'll use the simple deform here. Now the object center is of course very important in doing so. Let's quickly hit Ctrl A, apply rotation and scale just in case. Then we'll move. What we'll do is probably let's hide this for a second. Select the inner ring, Shift S, cursor to selected, object, set origin to 3D cursor, and then I'll move this a bit to the back and then the object a bit to the front. That will just make it all nicer to work with for us. Let's move the simple deform also to the bottom of the stack, and I'll use the bend and choose the right axis. I mean, this also works for us, but let's make a copy and use a different axis as well, probably this one. Yeah, we'll just curve it and bend it around all sides a little bit to make it really smooth. I think that looks very nice actually. Alright, there we go. I wasn't too confident about this part, but I think that actually doesn't look too bad. A bit larger like so. Now I don't want it to look too much like a piece of metal bolted on. I do want it to be kind of part of the cloth, so I make sure it's intersects the cloth a bit more. And then we just need to figure out the bolts. So I'm just going to maybe copy this over here, separate it into a new mesh, and then I'll just rotate it into place. We need 3 of these on each side. What you can do is use the snapping, but disable project individual elements. Now you can move it, and it will snap, but it won't snap each individual vertex. It will instead kind of snap the entire group. Now let's turn it back on and disable the snapping settings. And now we'll just manually move them in the right position. So I guess we have already now done more than half an hour of work for this part. That's a lot. Yeah, I'm surprised this video is actually getting this long, because I started this project, this tutorial, with this character in particular because I thought that it was a fairly simple character. But you see, even after this many years, I still underestimate the effort that it takes to create a character. So I hope you can understand that, and I probably will have mentioned it in the first part that I'm going to record it when everything is done, so just so that I can give you a couple of warnings in that regard. Let's see. Do you want to change the color though quickly? So there we go. Now this is all the details done, I hope. Give this a color too, if we want. Should be good enough for now. Yeah, this should be now all the details done. I'm not going to add too much more. I'm pretty sure we'll just keep things as they are. I mean, it is not the highest detail that you can get. I mean, there's a lot more going on here. The fingers could be more complex. We might do one little additional detail on the feet here, but that's really the last. Otherwise, we'll get in texturing. And I actually didn't even show you, did I? I didn't show you. Okay, let me save this and I'll show you. I did a little bit of experimentation with the shading, and this is what I came up with. I might have shown you. Oh my god, maybe I'm showing this now the second time and I have no idea. But this is currently what I'm looking at. The body still does seem a bit kind of rounded because it doesn't have the normal map and the detail transfer, but the helmet does have the normal map applied, so even though it's very low resolution, it does have the high frequency details on. I'm not super happy with some things, I'm happy with some other things, but basically this is sort of what we're looking at the moment, although I might redo the helmet in a later part. But yeah, I think the shading is going to be very exciting. There's a lot I can show you about this in case you want a little bit of a spoiler. This is what the setup looks like. Should be very easy to understand and very easy to replicate. If you want to experiment with that, that's good. And this one is really cool in particular. You see this edge, you can turn this one here and select where the rim light comes from. It will always stay in that side. Otherwise, it's just based on the light. But yeah, we have a lot to experiment there. I'm pretty sure I'll change a couple of things about this setup as well. But yeah, that's something I just wanted to show you all to get you a bit excited. But that's going to be it for this part. Next time we will go back and do some more retopology, add more parts that are sort of done and ready. We just might want to move these. What's this again? Oh yeah, that's the one. So I'll delete this extra part, and these will move to high. So we have now retopologized parts here, high polymol here, and we'll just continue this work, creating the pairs, and we'll see how it goes. So thank you for watching as always, and I'm looking forward to see you next time.